Dismissive avoidant uses this tactic to push you away. Let's talk about something that confuses almost everyone who's ever loved an avoidant. How someone can act like they want you, then suddenly start pushing you away one day. They're sweet, attentive, maybe even vulnerable. The next day, they're cold, distant, and withdrawn. It's not random. It's not mood swings. It's a defense mechanism so deeply wired into their emotional DNA that they often don't even realize they're doing it. Avoidants use a very specific psychological tactic to push people away. And it's not because they don't care. It's because care feels dangerous. Love, closeness, vulnerability. Those are things they crave on a deep level, but associate with pain, control, or suffocation. So what is the tactic? It's emotional withdrawal disguised as independence. When an avoidant feels emotionally close to you, when you start to mean something to them, their nervous system interprets it as a threat. They start to fear being engulfed, losing control, or becoming dependent. So instead of communicating that fear, they pull back. They'll become distant, distracted, or overly focused on something else. Work, hobbies, friends, even solitude. It's their silent way of saying, I need to feel safe again. But to you, it feels like rejection. You start questioning yourself. Did I do something wrong? Did I say too much? That's the invisible trap. Because the moment you start chasing them for reassurance, the avoidant feels confirmed that closeness equals pressure. And so, they retreat even further. They use deactivation tactics. These are subtle ways of minimizing connection without overtly breaking up. They stop texting as much. They take longer to reply. They avoid making future plans. They may even say things like, I just need space, or I'm not ready for something serious right now. But here's the thing. They often say these things after they've already shown you intimacy. They'll open up emotionally, maybe share something deep from their past, and then abruptly shut down. Why? Because that emotional intimacy triggered their deepest fear, the fear of being emotionally dependent or controlled. It's like their system goes, too close, abort mission. And that's where most partners get caught in confusion. You remember how warm they were just days ago. You replay the conversations, the laughter, the closeness. You can feel that they cared, but now they're acting like you don't exist. This inconsistency isn't manipulation, it's protection. Avoidance learned often in childhood that love can come with conditions or emotional danger. Maybe they grew up around unpredictable caregivers, or love was only shown when they behaved a certain way. So as adults, when love starts to feel too real, their brain associates it with loss of control. And control is everything to an avoidant. It's their shield against emotional vulnerability. Another tactic they use to push you away is emotional numbing. When emotions get too intense, avoidants tend to shut them down completely. They stop feeling instead of risking the pain of connection. It's like flipping a switch. One day, you're their emotional confidant, the person they share everything with. And the next, they're detached, indifferent, even cold. This isn't because they've stopped caring. It's because caring feels like walking on the edge of a cliff. If they let themselves fully feel love, they also have to face the fear of losing it. So they convince themselves it doesn't matter. They'll say things like, I'm fine alone, or I don't really need anyone. It's emotional self-sabotage disguised as strength. Avoidance also use deflection. This means they change the subject, joke around, or intellectualize emotions when things get too real. Let's say you bring up how distant they've been. Instead of opening up, they might respond with sarcasm. You're being dramatic, or you always overthink things. They're not trying to belittle you. They're trying to escape emotional confrontation. Vulnerability makes them feel cornered, so they use humor, logic, or dismissal as escape routes. Deep down, they wish they could tell you, I'm scared. I don't know how to be close without feeling trapped. But that's a language they never learned to speak. And when avoidance reaches its peak, they often turn to self-isolation. This is when they create distance so they can regain a sense of control. They'll withdraw completely, spend days alone, or bury themselves in distractions. This silence isn't always punishment, it's a coping mechanism. It's their way of saying, I need to breathe. Ironically, while they isolate themselves to feel safe, they also feel lonely. That's the heartbreaking paradox of avoidant attachment. They want connection, but fear it at the same time. Now here's where things get even more confusing. The moment you start pulling back, when you stop chasing, stop trying to fix things, they often reappear. Suddenly, they're texting again, showing interest, maybe even apologizing. You might think they've changed, but what's really happening is this. The distance you created makes them feel safe again. You're no longer threatening their independence, so they allow themselves to come close. But if emotional intensity builds again too quickly, the cycle restarts. This push-pull dynamic can leave you emotionally exhausted, questioning your worth, and walking on eggshells just to maintain peace. One of the most subtle but powerful tactics avoidants use to push you away is blame shifting. When their discomfort with intimacy peaks, they might start finding faults in you. Suddenly, the things they once found attractive are now too much. You're too emotional, too demanding, or too sensitive. What's actually happening is projection. They're projecting their own fear of intimacy onto you. By convincing themselves that you're the problem, they can justify their withdrawal. It's not about you being too much. It's about them being terrified of feeling too deeply. To make matters worse, avoidants often appear calm, rational, even detached while you're emotionally spinning. That emotional control gives them a false sense of power. It's a way to distance themselves not just from you, but from their own emotions. They tell themselves, "See, I'm fine. I'm not like other people who get caught up in feelings." But that's not strength. That's avoidance masquerading as composure. Over time, this emotional suppression can lead to chronic emptiness, dissatisfaction, and loneliness. They think they're protecting themselves from pain, but in reality, they're protecting themselves from love. So how do you respond when an avoidant uses these tactics to push you away? The answer isn't to chase, plead, or prove your love. That only reinforces their fear that closeness equals pressure. Instead, the key is calm emotional detachment. When they pull away, don't panic. Stay composed. Focus on your own emotional regulation. The more grounded you are, the more they feel safe to return. Avoidants don't trust words. They trust emotional energy. If your energy says, "I'm okay whether you come close or not," it disarms their fear. It tells them love can exist without control. And here's something powerful. The moment you stop trying to fix an avoidant, they start facing themselves. Your stillness becomes their mirror. They begin to see that their distance isn't about your behavior. It's about their own fear of intimacy. Some avoidants will run from that realization, but the ones who are ready to heal will start taking responsibility for their patterns. They'll start to understand that safety isn't found in distance, it's found in trust. In the end, remember this: an avoidance tactic to push you away isn't rejection, it's protection. They're not trying to hurt you, they're trying to avoid being hurt themselves. But love can't grow in the shadow of fear. The best thing you can do is love with boundaries. Don't beg for closeness. Don't chase their silence. Stand still in your worth, because when you stop proving your value, they're forced to confront the truth they've been avoiding all along. That distance doesn't keep them safe. It only keeps them lonely. And sometimes that realization is the first step toward real connection.